Hey, scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. I'm getting this Gaylord box ready to ship off to boardsort.com. It's mostly laptops and partial laptops, but I'm going to be topping it off with boxes of other boards to increase the value overall. And it gave me the perfect opportunity to answer a question that one of my viewers, actually a couple of my viewers, asked me about a video a while back where, well, you know what, here, let me just show you. Come on, let's dive in. So here's the situation. One of the boxes that I'm going to ship off in this Gaylord box is going to be clean gold finger cards. I have a whole bunch of them here, and I've got another bin full of them. Now, the last time I did this video, one of you, several of you, asked the question, what's the time value return? Come on. Doesn't Geek Shark want to have a say in this? And yes, he does. So we're going to do the math. Come on, let's dive in. For those of you that have not seen one of my ROI videos in the past, the way I do this is I show you the value as it is right now. So, this is what I would get from BoardSort if I sold them like this. Then I will break the boards down and I will time it, and we'll find out how much more money or less money we'll get and what that means for the time investment, the return on our time investment. So we have just over 10 pounds, 10.03 pounds of boards. Yes, I did tear out the bin. So let's go on over to the operating table and see what this turns out. As you can see, I have bins ready to go. The first category for BoardSort after these dirty boards is fans. No fan, no heat sink, but the bracket is still on. Sometimes that's a little problematic because we have things like this where a lot of stuff is still attached. So, we'll deal with that as we come up. Now, I've thrown this one in here because we do get some of these more complicated ones to scrap. Some of them are very easy and fast. Some of them can be a little more complex. So I wanted to be fair and, give a reasonable mix of the types of boards that we routinely have to deal with. All right, so let's go over to our timer, stopwatch. And remember, this one is primarily for removing heat sinks, fans, which includes any transformers or motors, and leaving the brackets on unless we absolutely have to take the bracket off. And I know some of you are saying, why are you scrapping that really good graphics? Well, because this stuff came from a computer repair shop. So I'm kind of going on the assumption that if he got rid of it, it's not worth reselling. So he probably had to repair this pull this for a client and put in another heat sink or something. All right, there we go. And that's going to get a little bit complicated, but for now I'm just going to put that there. You'll understand why I'm saying it's going to get complicated in a minute. We had a runaway board. Oops, that one is good to go with the bracket on there. This one we just have to take the motor off. I'm so used to just doing the full scrap on this that I don't even think about it. Put that there, that one's okay. That one's okay. That one's okay. Most of these heat sinks just pop right off. All right, this one we have to get the You have to take off this because you don't know what's hiding underneath of there. That's all right. Heatsink. Motor. Motor. You know, I know some of you are saying, hey, that's not a fan, but it might as well be. It's a little motor. Those screws were hard to see. All right, so that was 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Now, I'm gonna put all the metal together for shred. We've got the motors here. We're gonna have to decide what we want to do with these. Let me first get this plastic trash out of the way and explain what I'm talking about. So, let's get this shred in here. Now, for a lot of us, you've got an aluminum heatsink and you're going to want to take off the metal, the ferrous metal. So, you know, you've got to factor that into, again, we're trying to figure out what everything is worth. So, you know, we're going to have to time how long it takes us to clean up this aluminum so that we can get our actual number for the different piece parts. A lot of the fans are mounted onto aluminum heat sinks. So now you have to ask yourself how you're going to scrap that, right? Are you going to take the fan? Is your yard take fans as small motors, or is that shred? So we got to figure out how we want to handle that. But I think for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and I'm going to weigh these the way they are right now, and then we'll see how long it takes me to get the aluminum and the motors cleaned up, and we'll go back and see how long it takes to get the brackets off of those. All right, so the Goldfinger cards with the brackets still on 7.48, but I have to deduct 0.72 because I cleared the tear on this one because I'm using other bins. So now the fans with the motors and the fans, heat sinks and stuff, 3.72 minus 0.78. Yeah, we even have a little bit of shred here. What is that? About 0.08 pounds of shred. Little tiny pieces down there. Now we're set up for breaking down the motors from the heat sinks. So we've got aluminum heat sinks, motors, shreds, wire. So let's go ahead and do that. Some of these will be really easy, some of them not so easy. And in some cases, we're just going to get it the best we can. Most yards are not too particular about tiny little bits of screws and stuff in the heat sinks, in your aluminum heat sinks, but I do want to I want to clean it the way I would if I was going to sell it to my yard. Based on everything I know about them so far. And unfortunately, my yard does not buy small motors buy these little fans as small motors. My yard in Jacksonville used to, but these guys don't, so they only buy them as shred. I may have to look around and see if I can't work some other options at some point, but that's what I'm stuck with for now. Sometimes it's easier to just go ahead and break stuff off. You know, the aluminum is really thin, it will break out pretty easy. And yeah, you've got some places will call that aluminum extruded, some places will call it MLC, and some of this is sheet aluminum instead of the cast aluminum. So there are going to be further nuances, again, depending upon your yard. So we'll see what Geek Shark wants to do with that. Oops, come on. Yeah, there's another copper aluminum. Trash. And there's a mix of trash and shred, so I'm just going to throw this in with the shred. All right, and that's 8.5 minutes. 8.5 minutes. Let's go get some weights. We start out with 0.75 pounds of copper aluminum radiators. I don't know how we're going to price this out. Well, you know what? That's Geek Shark's problem, not mine. And we pick up a whopping 0.19 pounds of shred, 0.03 pounds of insulated copper wire, number 2. Now the rest of the heat sinks, these are just the aluminum heat sinks, 2.1 minus 0.78, so that's 1.32 pounds. And we wrap up with 0.55 pounds of motors. Again, my yard is only taking them as shred. Your yard might take them as small electric motors. All right, so now our final cleaning is to remove the brackets. I know that some of you are going to say that, you know, these screws, thumb screws or riser screws, might be brass. They might be. I am not going to take the time to check each one as I take it off. I'm just going to, for the purposes of this demonstration, assume that it is just shred, because most of them that I find like this are ferrous. If you want to take the time to check for brass, go for it. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it then. Why in the world did they use two different kinds of brackets on here? That's weird. Now we can clean up a lot of that shred when we're done. All right, 9 minutes, 15 seconds. Let's get all of our shred together in one place. You had a little wire here. I don't know, that wire weighs enough to make a difference, but we'll set it aside. All right then, let's go do some more weighing. We ended up with 2.16 minus 0.75 for 1.41 pounds of shred. And 6.03 minus 0.72 gives us 5.31 pounds of clean gold finger cards or ID cards, slot cards. These are the top value for at boardsort.com. All right, you all know that I'm not really into fancy math and spreadsheets and everything, but boy howdy, Geek Shark loves that kind of stuff. So take it away, Geek Shark. Hey folks, it's Geek Shark. Wow, it's been forever since I had a chance to talk with y'all. I tell you what, I didn't think that dirty, stinky shark was ever going to let me have any fun up here in the mountains. All right, let's get started on this analysis. Now, I'm calling these gold fingers that still have everything on them, dirty gold fingers. They still have the brackets and the heat sinks and everything. We had 10.03 pounds, and BoardSort is paying $1.25. We're going to confirm that right here. Where are you? We're on the BoardSort page here. Gold finger card with heatsink or fan, $1.25. So we end up with $12.54, and that's assuming that we don't do anything to them. We just sell it like that. Put it in the box, ship it. Our first cleaning, we're going to end up with gold finger cards with no heatsink and no fan. The bracket will still be on there. And we end up with 6.76 pounds. BoardSort is paying 4.9 cents a pound. We go over here. We go up to gold finger card, no fan, no heatsink with the bracket, $4.90. So that gives us a total of $33.12. The heat sinks that came off, for the most part, they had fans on them and stuff. I'm just going to call that dirty aluminum for right now. That's the easiest way to handle it here at this stage. So that's 2.94 pounds. BoardSort is paying 25 cents a pound. You know, your yard might be a little different, but that's going to be 74 cents. And then we ended up with a little bit of shred, 0.08 pounds. My yard is paying 7.5 cents a pound, so that's a penny. That means that we made $33.87 doing that, and it took us 8.5 minutes. So 8.5 divided by 60, that's 0.14 hour. So you would be tempted to think that your return on investment was $239.05 an hour, but not so fast. Because remember, we made $12.54 just doing nothing. So what we're looking at is the change. So if we go to, let's call this the delta value. And we're going to go over here and we're going to say that that delta value is this minus this. And now that's 2143. We're going to have the same number here. So that's still 0.14 hour. And we're going to tell it to redo this math for us using these numbers. So we're making $150.55 an hour, which is still pretty good. I mean, that's good, right? So if we look at the change in value of $21, our 8.5 minutes was worth $150 an hour to get that change in value. Now, if we take another 8.5 minutes that Dirty Shark Scrapper spent cleaning the aluminum, the fans and stuff into the copper aluminum heat sinks, the aluminum heat sinks, the shred, the fans, and the insulated copper wire, what we end up with is an additional $1.15. So if we take that $1.15 and we add the $33.12 for the boards, we end up with $34.27. Now again, we don't want to get fooled by thinking that is our real return on investment. we want to look at the change in value. So we want to look at this, we want to look at this minus this. Now we made $21.74. It took us 0.28 hours, right? So it was the 8.5 plus the 8.5, so 17 minutes. And now our return on investment is $76.72. Because our change in value now is just a little bit more, not much more at all, like 40 cents more, but we spent another 8.5 minutes getting that extra 40 cents. So now our return on investment here is only $76.72. That's still good return on investment, right? That's still worth your time, but it's not as good as just taking off the heat sink and fans. All right, so now let's go to our final cleaning here. And now what we have are clean gold finger cards. No heat sinks, no brackets. Let's confirm that that's $5.50. So gold finger card, clean, no fan, no heat sink, no bracket, $5.50. So our payout now is $29.21 because we've lost a lot of weight in the process of cleaning and everything, right? We ended up with 1.41 pounds of shred. So there's another 11 cents and a little bit of insulated copper wire for a couple more pennies. So that means that our total there is $29.33. We have to add back in $1.15 to account for all of this material because we went ahead and broke that all out. So that means that our total was $30.48. And it took us a total of 0.44 hours. But remember, we're talking about the delta value. So if we do this, and we're going to change we have to change the math here. This is going to be this minus this. So we made an extra $17.95. That's still 0.44 hours. And our time is, that formula is good. So that's a difference of $41.02 an hour. So you know what this is telling me? This is telling me that the thing to do with the gold finger cards is to just take off the fans and the heat sinks and leave the brackets on, because you make the most amount of money and your return on investment is the highest. Now, there could be some argument in here saying, well, you called the extra stuff, dirty aluminum, so, is that too much value? Did you put too much value on that? Well, you know what? Let's just say all we got was shred for that. Let's take a look at that now. Let's say if all we got was shred value for that, we would end up with $33.35. That is still the highest value of any of the iterations that we've done. And it's still, even after when we take away So when we're looking at the change in price, we made an extra $20.81, which means our return on investment here was almost $147 an hour. And that is the best return on investment for any of the effort that we put into this. Now, you could make the argument too that, well, when you're breaking down a computer and you pull that board, you're going to knock through taking off the bracket and all that kind of stuff. And so is it going to break up your flow? Well, if you get in the mindset of just pulling off the fan and the heatsink, that's going to be your max value. I am amazed. I am truly amazed by these numbers. Please, everybody, check this math. Look it through for yourself and see if I messed up somewhere, because I have been, ever since I started selling my Goldfinger cards to Board Sort, I've been taking off the fans and the heat sinks and the brackets so that I had the maximum dollar per pound. But by taking all that stuff off, I ended up with the least amount of money and the worst return on investment. I mean, that's still not a bad payday, $41, an hour, but I can make a lot more money here by just taking off the fan and the heatsink. This is so eye-opening for me. All right, everybody. Well, look, I'm going to tell Dirty Shark that he's got to change his process. I want to know, are you going to change your cleaning process, what you're going to do moving forward? I also want to know if somebody finds a mistake in what I'm doing here so that I can, take this video down and put up a corrected one. Well, I got to admit, I feel like shark poop on a resort beach right now. I am just flummoxed. I cannot believe the way the math came out, that this is the optimal way to sell Goldfinger cards, these slot cards, PCI slot cards, to BoardSort.com. Just take off the fans, the heatsink, leave the bracket on there, and that's where you're going to get your greatest return on investment. That's your maximum dollar per hour spent. I got to change my whole process now. I really appreciate the fact that you folks keep asking me questions, because that forces me to go back and reevaluate what I'm doing and improve my processes and my return. So thank you very much. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and take a look at these other videos that are popping up here to help you make more money and improve your efficiency when you're scrapping. Have a great day, everybody.